Hey guys, Matthew here, and today I'm going to bring you guys the last update of my bossing to Headhunter. As you can see, we have a physical Headhunter acquired. We have just about no currency left, but I was actually quite surprised. I was able to buy the Headhunter without having to touch my build at all, and I also didn't even sell almost any of the loot from Shaper himself outside of the fragments. From the fragments alone and the Maven's Writs, which I had spoken of and showed in the last video, and of course a decent bit of, bases and whatnot from Shaper, I was able to actually get the Headhunter. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. Basically showcase a little run real quick of how fast this build is actually capable of running Shaper, and then we're basically going to recap the series and whatnot. So let's first off look at currency wise. As you can see, yesterday in my video where before I said I was going to do all these 126 Shapers, I was sitting at 11,872 chaos on excellence. Now I am sitting at 17,398. So let's just go ahead and do the math on that and figure out how much money we made from Shaper. At this point, however, I had already farmed a decent bit. I had farmed, I believe, 28 runs. So I had 98 to go. So what I'm about to show you is essentially how much money we made from Shaper in 98 runs. Now, of course, this is a bit of a ballpark because of bases that I may have had prior and sold after and stuff like that. But it's an idea. So 11,900 or so. So over the course of 98 Shaper runs, we made a total of, let's see, it does seem that Exalts did go up in price. Oh, I actually don't have any Exalts, but I believe they're at around 117 right now. So that means that I made 47 Exalts over the course of 98 Shaper runs. So let's go ahead and do the math on that, because Shaper runs take me about 5 minutes per run. So if I had to do 98, I guess, for this video, right, for this update, 98 times 5 minutes per run divided by 60 minutes per hour, it would have taken about 8 hours to do all of these 98 Shaper runs for a total of 47 Exalts. Now this is pure profit as well, right? Because we're not talking about investment, we're talking about pure profit. So if we divide that by 8, we are looking at around close to 6 Exalts per hour. The fragments alone make up for about 3.5 to 4 Exalt an hour if you're able to run Shaper in roughly 5 minutes, because you're able to run 12 Shapers per hour. But the rest basically of this is essentially better drops. So for example, if we look at the Shaper drops, I pretty much sold none of them except for flasks. Especially well-rolled flasks are actually worth a good bit. You have some of them that can sell for multiple Exalts, like a perfect one goes for 2x, a nearly perfect one can go for easily 1x. It really comes down to how much reduced charges you have and how much AoE you have. It seems like they started to really slow down, and even the much better ones are kind of taking a little bit longer to sell, but they're still quite good. And jewelry from Shaper also really, really good, which is why I didn't do the Exalt recipe shard. The Exalt shard recipe, because I thought that identifying this stuff was actually better in a lot of the cases. Which I don't know. I think it could have went either way, but personally that's where I went with. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and showcase real quick. Now that we spoke about the currency, I want to showcase real quick what an actual run looks like on this build. So you'll see one thing that's a bit strange is that I have 7 league steps with the movement speed if you haven't been hit recently in champ, which gives me 60% move speed. This is almost mandatory to make Shaper feel good on a build that is not something like a leap slam or like a shield charge build, because you want to be doing these Shapers as fast as possible. I didn't need the damage for my Replica and Nayas, and while Replica and Nayas are great for mapping, they have 5% damage per power charge, and they also have 5% move speed for power charge, meaning we have 10 power charge, that's 50% move speed, which is insane. Well, these are just better because it's 50% move speed, but there's no conditions. It's always there, right? So I'm going to go ahead and show you basically a part of a quick run that we did on stream just to show what it looked like to do a Shaper. Just to show this, the speed of the character. Pretty much, I'm utilizing my movement abilities as well as I can. So I've got Smoke Mine on my W, I've got Flame Dash on my Q, and I'm comboing them together in order to get double blinks. And then I'm also using my Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline pretty much anytime that it's up. So as you can see, it's actually pretty quick as long as we have Flask. At this point, I don't have any Flask, which is why it's going a little slower. But as long as you're doing the Flame Dash alongside the Smoke Mine and all that, you're actually zooming quite fast on these runs. Now, just to showcase the damage and what that looks like, let me go ahead and go to like the last phase or something. Okay. All right, so I believe that would be the last phase here. So just to showcase the damage real quick on the build, you know, it's not like instant, you know, he blows up instantly, but it's also pretty respectable enough to make it so as long as he doesn't do any of his invulnerability phases, he is going to die very quick. Okay, so now that we've covered that, let's talk about basically real quickly where the money comes from Shaper. I've already mentioned it, it's fragments, but there's a way that you can actually take advantage of fragments. Right now, fragments are about 70C each, right? So 70C for this, 70C for that. The whole set of the fragments from Shaper himself goes for about 9C each on average, maybe 10C each if you were to go in bulk. So that's 40 chaos per set, and you're only making 70 chaos back. That's guaranteed, then everything else. But that's only 30 chaos. With the current price of exalts, that would mean that you'd have to do Shaper like 4 times in order to get an exalt out of Shaper, right? That's not very good. So you can actually sell these in bulk for exalts instead, and they sell for 4 fragments for 3 exalts. That is a lot better, because 4 fragments at the price of 70C each right now would only be 280 chaos, which divided by the current price of exalts is only 2.4 exalts. You can sell them for 3 exalts for 4 of them, and they sold really well, especially if you have a lot of them, and I had like 60 of each. So, you know, people message me, one guy messaged me, he bought 40 of them, 40 of each of the 2 of them, right, which is 60 exalt right there, boom, right? So it goes very quickly. Same thing with the Maven's Ritz, I ended up selling them for 1 exalt each. It took a little while, a little bit longer than I was expecting, but I got rid of all of them at 1x each, so I had 36 from the initial farming of Guardian maps, which was 36 exalts, obviously. And pretty much that alone, right? These Maven's Ritz alongside the Shaper fragments at 4 per 3x, and of course the bases allowed me to acquire my Headhunter with an average for the series of probably from the Shaper and the Guardian farming being around maybe 6x an hour. That being said, I would say that the Guardian farming was actually the more profitable option and the more fun option. I think Shaper was pretty boring. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the series, but before I go, I want to do something kind of fun. Because I'm already done with the series, and we have all of this loot from Shaper, I went ahead and qualityed and linked all of this different stuff. So we're going to go ahead and just vow all of it, and then I also divined the Star Forges a couple times, nothing crazy. So we're going to vow it all and see if we can get something out of it. So it's going to be pretty much what we'll be doing to end off this series. Hopefully on something cool happening. Otherwise, I don't particularly care, as I have already basically finished off and gotten the Headhunter. So, anybody wondering, what are we looking for? We are looking for curses, pretty much, on the gloves, right? Curses are great, so be it, for example, elemental weakness, but it could also be something like vulnerability. We're looking for, you know, level of gems, so looking for stuff like that. So we're also going to vow the amulets, as they now have a method of making currency out of them from being able to anoint corrupted amulets, which is pretty neat. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a quick look at what we got. So nothing here, +2 proj. That might be cool, actually. We're going to have a lot of bricks, +2 proj. I don't think that's going to be pretty too great. Despair. Okay, so far these are the ones that actually had any sort of implicits show up on them. All right, let's keep going. +2 duration, that's going to apply to auras, so it's pretty decent, but it's not really sought after. +2 proj, again, not great. Temp chains is not what we're after. +1 socket of gems on the boots is actually pretty neat. Again, not exactly sure it's anything that people want or care about, however. Attack speed on the gloves. ES on the gloves. We're really not looking at anything too special. We did get flat attack, which is pretty nice, but it's a horrible roll, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and price check these and see if any of them have any real value. So Despair is about 3C, so definitely not great. +2 proj on the boots, 10C, not something we care about. Duration, looks like we are going to run into some limits, however. Nothing great there. +2 proj is probably going to be roughly the same. It really is kind of a one-man show of getting the curses, right? That's really where the money is. I'm actually surprised that +1 socketed gems is that cheap, however. Spell dodge while moving is pretty awesome. The only problem is, obviously, they're not enchanted. And because they're not enchanted, you know, it's really hard to make anything out of them. Attack speed is not really going to be too great for these specific gloves. The ES I don't really have to look at, honestly. The attack crit might be decent. Let's go ahead and let this reset, and we are going to keep valing more stuff. Or sorry, not valing, we've already valed everything, but we're gonna have a quick look at see if we got anything else. So elemental weakness, that's one that I'm pretty happy about. It seems that we got a perfect roll, or no, sorry, not a perfect roll, it's a minimum roll I meant, but still pretty decent. The fact that they're already linked and colored and all that is nice. It typically makes it doesn't really add any value to them particularly, but it does make them easier to sell. Vulnerability, so we did get a vulnerability, and we also did get a curse, or sorry, an elemental weakness, so I can't complain. That's pretty much what we were going after. These are the two best ones by far. Now in terms of the rolls, 40%, 48%, and 111, so this vulnerability one is quite nice. The elemental weakness one could have been a little bit better. So let's go ahead and have a look at the +2 aura real quick. So yeah, +2 aura is actually not all that bad. I figured that would happen. The attacks crit, we didn't get to check on that. So that's almost an exalt, actually, for the attacks crit. I wish the roll was a little bit better, but that's not too bad. Let's go ahead and have a look at elemental weakness. That is 1 exalt, which is also not too bad. I'm probably going to be able to sell these for more because they're already linked and colored. People are lazy, and they'll pay more just because they're ready to be used. And then the vulnerability on the 48 with another exalt there. So if we go for, let's say, 1x, 1x, 1x for these two, that's about 3 exalts, which is, if we look at our excellence, how much was our Shaper's Touch gloves worth? They were worth 135C total, so we basically nearly tripled their money from corrupting them, which is not too bad. The boots, however, well, they weren't really worth anything to begin with, so I'm not too worried about that. All right, now let's have a look at the bigger items, if you will. So nothing on the first Starforge, nothing on the second, nothing on the third. Well, that's really sad. And as for the amulets, we actually got +1 All-Res Solstice Vigil, which is pretty neat. But I don't really think it's going to have any particular, you know, crazy value there. 2 exalts, actually much better than the base value, so I would say that's a win. We were obviously going for additional curse because you can then anoint another additional curse and get like 3 curses, which is pretty damn sick. Or you could also anoint anything else. But yeah. This the new oil that allows you to anoint a corrupted item is pretty neat. Anyways, that's pretty much it for the series. I believe I've gone over every single thing that I wanted to touch on. I'm pretty happy with the results. I would say that I was pleasantly surprised with the time that it took to actually finish the entirety of the series, especially considering it was this long into this deep into a league. Hopefully you guys learned something. For the people who are playing the build, you know, it's a very different play style. I would say, you know, basically just plow through, and you're gonna hate it at some point, you're gonna love it at some point. Just stick to it and you will get, you know, a little bit more experience using this sort of build, like a ZHP Delver sort of playstyle. And once you get, you know, used to it, it's really not that bad. Now, that's going to be it. Before I go, I want to say a massive thank you to my supporters, however. Joseph, Adicus, Don, Brandon, Flutefly, Reese, Panda, Central Bard, Adarant, Welcome Back, Neroth, Jacob, Thomas, Nake, The Great Master, Raymond, Alex, Emil, Tim, Grimor, Lost with the Maps, Lim, Scorpion, Nathaniel, Richard, Johnny, Scott, Ronald, Willie D, Kevin, Moonkiss, Mercury, Citizen, and of course Axel. So it's a massive thank you to everybody else who has listened me, or sorry, supported me in the past, or anybody else who wishes to remain anonymous. Hopefully you guys had a good one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.